Welcome this Wednesday Satsang, coming to you from all over the world. BJ, where are you from? I forgot. Toronto?
Rochester, Minnesota, where so-called Great Mayo Clinic is there.
So-called, huh?
I mean, they say that, but whatever my wife has the problem, they couldn't find any solution to it.
We'll have to get Angela's mystic to prescribe something for your wife.
That's fine. I mean, she is fine.
I love you all. I'm glad you're here. You know, before I met Robert, I was, let me see. Before I met Robert, that's Maxie, I was very confused as to who and what I was. Confused emotionally, mentally, having been with 7 different Zen masters, with Muktananda and others. I was a mass of contradictory spiritual teachings, but I didn't know who I was. Then I met Robert, and I became unconfused in my awakening experience when I found out I was nothing at all. That consciousness came to me. Waking state came to me. The sleep state came to me. But who I was, I could not know. And for 15 years, I rested in sort of a dull emptiness. But then in 2010, I discovered who I was as a human and as God, one and the same. It's the extraordinary experience that Mary just had recently, where you realize for the first time that you're not a pathetic, limited, mundane human being, but you're filled with the love and energy and knowledge of God, knowledge of the manifest self, of the I am. And what an awakening experience it is. Just ask Mary. Stunned, overwhelmed at the intensity of the feelings, of the light, of the energy, and the understanding that comes. I am. I exist. You want to announce yourself to the world because you finally found what you never knew you were, which is the life force, sentience, with love, with consciousness, as an entity, body-mind, with sentience. And for a while, after this awakening, I identified myself with the divine, with the experience of the Godhead within me and around me. I was no longer just Ed, but I knew God, and he and I were one in the sense we were the same thing. incredible energy, incredible love, incredible power. I felt like I could move mountains just with my thoughts. And over the next 10 years, that I am unfolded the knowledge it had of itself. And I loved and I loved and I loved and was loved back. What power swept through me? The power of divine love, which was unlike any human love I had known before. Because not only was it human love now, but I could feel the divine at all times. A separate entity, yet the same, filled with power, who loved my devotion, who loved me back because of my devotion. But I found out, without the presence of a woman who loved me, that divinity can go away. There was Dia, and then Angela. And after each one left, the power to love in me diminished. And I realized that human love sparked the existence and the recognition of the divine love did not endure, did not last. Somebody always went away. What to do? So then last week, I spoke to Shankarananda, as I have constantly throughout the last 42 years. And I felt that same sweet love that I had for Angela. And that was a new understanding that it was the quality of loving in the other person that I was responding to. It wasn't a sexuality. It wasn't anything even physical. It was the quality of the love itself that they had. So in 2010, I realized who I was, a human and God being incarnated into this body. And it was a new discovery for me. It's something I should have experienced 30 years before when I first got into spirituality, as opposed to finding in Robert that I didn't exist at all. And this divine love took me out of the non-existence and back into the world. into loving, into energies. So on October 3, we're going to have the first of 2 meetings between our 2 Sanghas. On October 3, and it'll originate in Melbourne at noon, in the United States at 2:30 a.m., and in Europe in the late evening, 8:30, 9:30, and 10:30, in Bulgaria and Romania. And then after the satsang is over, a link will be posted for some people who didn't see it to see it. Where do you live, Ian? In Australia, where?
About 1,000 miles from Melbourne.
Which
North.
way?
North. I live at the most easterly point of Australia.
So it's the same time zone.
Yes, same time zone, yeah.
What's the name of the city?
Byron Bay.
Byron Bay. I want to announce too that Cassie had a 29th birthday yesterday.
Mm. 21st.
29, definitely.
21.
18. Shoot for 18. But now I'm going to make a turn in the teachings because it's a turn in me. A turn that is very powerful towards realizing again what I learned with Robert. Which is that I don't know who I am. That soaking in the divine, that feeling the glory of God within, that feeling of power and immortality inside myself, the constant presence of light, was totally beyond the mundane world, and a total relief to be in and away from the mundane. But I was unable to help Angela get into the divine world. I failed. 2.5 years, I failed. And without her presence, the fire in me began to wind down once again. Here is what I learned. I separated myself from my mind 2 ways. The original way was in meditation by sinking into my body. And the power center was in my body. And the mind was so far away up here in my head. It's like a weak radio station, or a weak radio signal, 3 rooms away. but more deeply, I separated by means of understanding, knowledge. When I became totally aware that what my mind did all day long was merely entertainment, distracting me from life, from living, all day long calculating, thinking, judging. What a useless waste of time, because it kept me from being in the present. PJ, I saw the uselessness of my mind. It kept me away from the world. It kept me away from living in my body and the world. So I lost interest in it. So I was removed from the mind by two things: focusing my attention inside my body rather than in my head, where the radio station of the mind is. But then realizing these were really shitty channels that I was watching day after day after day. Really boring stuff. So I didn't listen anymore. There's no Netflix up there. There's no Bravo up there. There's no Encore up there. There's no Star Trek Picard up there. So I didn't pay any attention. It was I had watched without trying to understand. I had watched my mind. And gradually, without trying to understand the mind in any way, I understood it was kind of worthless, and it prevented me from living in the world of experience, the now. Just the same process can allow one to gain a more full understanding of everything, of enlightenment, of awakening. If one turns that same attention, choiceless attention, as Krishnamurti said, choiceless awareness, which means you're not looking to get anything, even understanding. And you just watch. What you watch is not only what you're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, feeling, but you watch the processes of consciousness itself. You watch how awareness changes. You watch how consciousness itself is kind of wobbly. Sometimes it's sharp. Sometimes it's sort of dull. Sometimes it doesn't seem to want to work. Sometimes it feels sort of lifeless, and other times it feels fully alive. So we're talking about consciousness in a body and how the body affects consciousness. And when that's noted, you note that consciousness is intimately associated with the body. But you also note that no matter what the body feels, what emotions I feel, what physical sensations I feel, the variability of my sense of self over time, that there's something in you that just watches these changes and notes them. Begin to realize that consciousness and everything in consciousness, your world of experience, your relationships, your loves, your angers, people living and dying, your animals, they're all kind of passing phenomena. Just phenomena that grab me for the moment. Grab me for a moment, and then they're gone. When you've seen 35 or 40 of your cats die over a 40-year period of time, see how ephemeral life is, and those that you love are. You get used to death. Although each death seems a tragedy at the time, after the first 20 or so, you become used to the shock of losing that person or that cat, that dog that you had become so attached to. The attachments begin to fade because you know they're going to hurt. But you do it anyway. Then you feel strong enough. You become a stronger human being, used to laughing and loving, and feeling anger, feeling loss, because the hurt is not so important as the attachment you have towards that person or that animal or that place. You get used to loss. And in fact, in a way, it allows you to be more attached because it gives you something to live for every moment that you're in that person or that animal's or that environment's presence. It sustains that godness in you. But with all this watching of the objects of consciousness, such as my cats, or my friends, or my lovers, and seeing their impermanence, something clicks to you. And you realize that all of these are passing shows, passing experiences to me. And then you realize me is separate from all of these experiences. Me is away from space and time. Me is away from the life of my cats. Me is away from my loves. Me watches and gets attached. And then you begin to see something extraordinary. that even that which you had thought was you, either as a human or a divine being, is only a passing phenomenon to you. You are, as the philosophers say, ontologically prior to the existence of the world. You're prior to the existence of the world. And as such, the world depends on you for its existence. Because although you imagine that there's a world separate for you that you're dwelling in fact, the world of your experience does not come into existence until you come into existence as a bound sentient being and begin noticing an external world experience early in life, around age 2 or 3, when you begin to separate yourself from the environment. So then you wonder, is it possible that I, as an observer, so to speak, a hypothetical observer, exists separate from this whole ball of wax of sensations, of love, of the external world, of surrender, and all those beautiful things that we found when we first realized we were God being, that Mary just realized a couple of months ago, which has totally blown her human mind away. Is there something even beyond that? But which you don't want to lose by going beyond it. Think about that. That's the essential message of Robert Nisargadatta Ramana. Even that play of consciousness that Muktananda talks about, is a passing show happening to you who observes it and has for so long identified with it. This body, this mind, this emotor, this seer, this hearer. But the more you look, the more separate it seems from you. The great loves you felt before are still there, more or less to a degree. But you feel yourself separate, like Mary did yesterday, for a brief moment, when she was totally outside of herself in a different dimension. She could still experience her body, mind, and the energies within her, and the love within her, and the light within her. But she felt apart from it. This is an adumbration, a taste of final awakening. When you're no longer identified with the world. And you have no reason to do anything anymore. There's no motivation. There's no desire. So you do things spontaneously, without reason, without movement. You just do things because that's your nature, whatever your nature is. It can become sort of a, I forget what they call them, a divine idiot that lives in a cemetery, rolling cigarettes down the street with your nose. Or you can become the person you always were, acting the same way as you were, because that's what's in you now to do. Or you can become a teacher, because you think that these experiences of being a God being and feeling that love and surrender and devotion, being a bhakta, is really far out and fantastic. So you teach that there is this place where you can become an incarnated God being. You consciously become God incarnated into a human, where you begin to know everything about consciousness as all of the aspects of consciousness unfold before you. And you laugh a lot, you cry a lot, you feel ecstasies a lot, samadhis. But after a while, even that's not so much. But the happiness and the joyfulness never leaves you. In a sense, you're still delighted with yourself, residual self, God self. But you're no longer really of the world. It just happens to you, and you react in your own way, spontaneously, without much of a thought. Because there's no place for thought anymore, because you don't have any selections. You don't have any choices. It's all the same to you. So how you react is almost as mysterious as what you are, because you never know how you're going to react. Sometimes you may act with what appears to others as great compassion. At other times, what appears to be indifference. And other times, what appears to be cruelty. Other times, what appears to be humility. And you don't know why you did what you did. And once again, you become dumb as a rock. You have no idea why you do what you do or who you are. You just know that you cannot know who you are. Because who you are is beyond space and time, beyond existence, because it watches all of existence. And therefore, who you are doesn't have any attributes of an existing being. It has no color, no body, no energy, no name, no form. And therefore, It's totally outside of both the human and the divine ken, recognition. It's outside of those fields. Consciousness comes to you unbidden. And after spending 50 or 60 years in what it offers, in the consciousness and the growth and all the experiences you had, the loves you've had, the pets you've had and lost, the lovers you've had and lost, the wealth you've had and lost, come to sort of feel it doesn't make any difference. Because all in all, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty joyous. I don't get involved. All the dramas. Unless you want yourself to become a drama. You may say, hey, it's time for me to descend out of this indifference. And rescue the world from some disaster or another. Climate change, Trump and the Republican Party, a virus. You may give yourself a mission, which may or may not last. Because at this point, who you are is entirely unknown. And what determines your behavior appears to be totally spontaneous. And you certainly don't know what it is. I love you all. I really do. Sometimes more strongly than others. Like when I heard Shankarananda a week ago. I felt so devotional, so surrendered to my friend of 42 years. And it was so sweet because I knew it was just a passing feeling. And to not get too excited about it, but just to be in it totally, but don't hold on to it. And for that reason, we got together and decided to do 2 Satsangs. One between Australia and Europe, our people in Europe, and those in Australia, and Shankarananda's Satsang. There's going to be a lot of chanting and a lot of talking. A lot of laughing, I suppose, because he always makes me laugh, or others laugh. And it's typically very lighthearted. And then there'll be one between Australia and the United States directly, where it's not 2:30 in the morning here in Arizona. But I look forward to them. It's sort of unusual for teachers to get together and do anything mutual. They all want to be number one. And how can they be a number one if there's somebody else that has equal time making a presence? Shankarananda made that amazing video, The Three Gurus, with him, Shankarananda, Brother Charles, and Andrew Cohen. Several years ago. It's only like 10, 12 minutes long on YouTube, and I urge you to see it. Three Gurus, I think it's called. But that kind of thing is so unusual. My teacher, when I first started in Buddhism officially, Dr. Thich Nhat Hanh, founded the College of Buddhist Studies and the International Buddhist Meditation Center. And he also founded a Buddhist Congress, all of which are gone, long gone. But for a time, he had 5 or 6 Zen masters and hundreds of their followers working together, communicating. I sort of like the idea because it's unusual. You don't see that much anymore, except in these religious conferences where you have Jews meeting Catholics, meeting Protestants, and a few Buddhists, and just joking with each other and eating and getting absolutely nothing done because they have nothing in common with each other. They don't have any real spirituality, they have religion. Anyway, that's where I am. I invite you all now to speak about your reaction. Don't rush all at once. Take your time. Mark,
Yes, Ed. How you doing?
I thought I'd relieve the others, as you always say, from being first and allow you to speak because you're always willing to speak.
It's a great idea. I wish I had it first. I've noticed the softness to your demeanor since the phone call to Shankarananda. I've noticed you seem more relaxed and more like yourself lately than has been at certain other times. I do have a question for you. If energy or love, it can't be directly transferred through time and space, how do you explain your reaction to Shankarananda's phone call?
What do you mean, if it can't be transferred? If there isn't an energy transfer?
Yeah. If there's no direct energy transfer, if it's all like through memory and association, is
No,
it?
it's more like the way I put it, it's like a church bell in one church goes off at a certain frequency,
Okay.
and another bell in another church nearby rings at the same time because of the harmonics. It's a resonation. I don't think of it as an energy transfer, even though there was a physical transfer of energies, the air and so forth, but it's more deeper than that. Shankarananda, I've known him so long, shared so many things. There's been a love there the entire time. But during that phone call, I felt it especially. And I asked him, I said, some of my people say there's a sharing of energy. And I don't believe it. I believe more like it's two bells in harmony. And he said, you should never tell him that. You should tell him it was his energy or my energy that did it. And that way you raise yourself above them and get some devotion coming out of them. But that to me is kind of phony, manipulative. I even better would say, I don't know.
So I find it interesting that although you've reached such a high attainment, higher than any other teacher that I know of, that your understanding is open to some revision, some nuance. You're still learning some things, and
Yes, I am.
ultimately, the ultimate state of the absolute is that one finds one's ultimate identity as a witness to it all. One becomes more and more one-pointed, more and more inclusive of the totality of self, until one backs up and finds one is just like a perceiver of the whole show.
Or so they say.
And you can move between the different levels at that point. No one's forcing you to stay in that place, but you
I
have
really like the way I felt with Janet and with Dia and with Angela. The sweetness of the love I felt, rather than intense sexual love. It was a soul thing. And I don't know whether that's going to be lost as this turning continues. I hope I can return to it because I really enjoy it, but maybe in a while I won't enjoy it that much anymore.
well, it's happened 3 times already. There's no ruling out a new connection or a revival of another one.
No, there's no ruling it out, no. But I
Right.
notice I'm turning like I never turned before. I'm turning more towards the infinite, towards the transcendent, because I see that the ebullient state, the surrendered state, the love state of the manifest love and so forth, they're temporary things. Temporary things.
But the absolute is eternal.
Or so they say.
So one finds out that all these things that appear in one's life, including one's body, mind, are not under one's operation. It's all operated automatically through the power.
Yeah, that's so they say that too, but what it really means is you pay less and less attention to it. To actually being an actor in the world. And you just let whatever wants to happen through you. It's a relaxation. It's a continuing of the relaxation that you're doing. And if the activity comes, which it comes more rarely because you give less of a shit, but when it comes, you may not even be aware that your actions have any motivation in anything. So it seems far more spontaneous.
Thank you, Ed. That was great.
Jay?
I kind of look at the Sangha as a big mosh pit of love. I kind of, if I were ever to turn my back on everyone here, it would only be to throw myself into that joy with absolutely no expectation, no fear. Again, your words today are mystical and profound and deep. And so suffused with love that, again, not to get lost in my words, it just becomes...
No, you're doing fine.
I'll keep it short, and I won't sing. So just, I love you. And
I want to hear you sing.
No, please. No, you don't. But really, this is beyond words, beyond concepts, beyond stories, beyond Jay, just simply to a place that is trying to live within the mundanity of things, but to simply let it go, to simply stop subscribing to it. I can't any longer. It's too high a price to pay. I simply, spirituality and this Sangha and the Satsangs. This is my journey, this is my path, this is my being. Everything that I love is requited by all who are here. I love you all. Guruji, I love you deeply. I love you all.
I love you too. I really do.
No.
Mary, I gave you some time so you could warm up with whatever words you're going to deliver. I didn't call on you first to surprise you and to leave you speechless. I let you mull it over what you're going to say.
I have nothing, Ed. Only to say how much I love you.
Thank you.
The pointers, whatever you want to call it, teaching, pointers, talk, whatever. But every single time I crumble to your feet. I can't. Just thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thank
Very
you.
welcome. Vesselina?
Yes, Ed.
What's your reaction?
I don't know. I was just feeling what Mary was saying, and I tried to imagine what it's like to be Mary and how she feels, and I don't know. It's just very beautiful. Me, I'm rather confused. Your talk made me very calm, and I feel like I go out of somewhere out of space. I don't know where. It's like I feel like it's I don't know where something black around me, and all of a sudden I wake up and hear what you're saying.
Thank you. Cassie?
I had an experience very similar to just a few years ago. I met somebody at a workshop. A man, didn't matter it was a man or a woman. And the love I felt was just immediate. And I just wanted to spend the whole week sitting next to him. Same thing, just this love that was just so soft and beautiful. I felt kind of embarrassed because Ian was there as well, but I finally admitted it to him that I just felt this enormous love for him. And then he didn't, that was it, that was the end of it. We never talked again. It's completely gone. And I don't know what he experienced, if he experienced anything. It was just me loving it. Oh, it was so delightful.
I know. It's a great experience, isn't it?
It is, it's gorgeous. Yeah. So what just came up for me as you were talking is that my discriminatory mind, the discriminatory mind is such a burden, and it just gets in the way. but it's there, and I just watch it. Yeah, just watch it. That's it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I've talked myself out. If anybody else has anything to say, go for it.
I just love what Cassie said, because I always love what she says. She says it with a soft heart, and what she says about a soft love is so gentle, and it's hard to conceptualize gentle in this world, but everyone here takes me there, and it's not a moment of this miracle is ever missed, and just it's pure bliss, indescribable, ineffable. It's not as though we're on a trip, because we are the all in all. We are everywhere. All of the things that we see in the manifest world, we are the stuff of all of these things, and it's God manifest in a miracle in every moment. And Cassie, I love you for everything that you share, really deeply.
By the way, Eddie, Joey, whatever your name is this moment, where do you live?
Colorado, Denver. I'll
'Cause
be visiting you one day.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Fantastic. Bring chocolate,
Okay.
dark chocolate,
Okay. Dark chocolate.
preferably See's candy. Dark chocolate chunky. Just kidding. I have to know where we are located, because it's going to be hard to coordinate an international 3 or 4 continent satsang and get because it's going to be live, and people have to be ready to turn it on when their time comes, their time zones and all that. I guess you'll be either around 2:30 or 3:32 in the morning. I don't know whether I'll actually be there or not, or tape something ahead of time. I love you all. That will be a great experience, October 3. It's my mother's birthday. She would have been 103 today on that day. Take care. I love you all. Relax in nothingness.